So let's go ahead and solve the design of food rating system problem on LeetCode. In this problem, we need to modify the rating of a food item listed in the system, and we need to return the highest rated food item for a type of cuisine in the system. Go ahead and read through the rest of the description and the example to really understand what this problem requires us to do. But in terms of coding, we need to go ahead and do the following. Alright, so first of all, we're going to create two maps. The first map, which as its key, it stores a string, and this string is going to be the name of the food. And as its value, we're going to store an object called food. And obviously food doesn't exist in Java, but we're going to create it. And this food object is going to store three pieces of information, which is the name of the food, which is also the string in this map. We're also going to store within food the cuisine name, so to what cuisine this food belongs to, as well as its rating. And we can go ahead and do that in just a moment, but let me finish up writing these two maps. So we're going to call this map food map, and then that's a typo, food map. And then we're going to create another map which also stores as its key a string, except this time this string is going to be the name of or just the cuisine generally, and its value is going to be a tree set of food objects. So in other words, what we're doing is we're creating a map that stores as its key a cuisine and all the foods that belong to that cuisine. So let's call that cuisine to food. Okay, one thing I'd like to quickly mention is the fact that we're using a tree set. The reason why we're using a tree set is because in Java, tree sets automatically sort the items within it in ascending order. So numerically, it would be from lowest to highest, and alphabetically, it would be from A to Z. But throughout the code, or at some stage in the code, we're actually going to utilize the fact that tree sets automatically sort items within our list. However, we're going to be creating a custom sorting algorithm, and then we're going to be inputting it into the tree set to sort however way we want, because that's what's required to us in the given. If you read right here, we need to return the name of the food item that has the highest rating for the given type of cuisine. And if there's a tie, return the item with the lexicographically smaller name. So we're going to be creating our own custom sorting algorithm, and we're going to be inputting it into the tree set which we create. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our food class. So class food, and then we're gonna this class food is gonna store a string name, string cuisine, and int rating. This is going to be our blueprint for our food constructor, which looks like this. Public food, which takes three parameters: string cuisine, string name, and int rating. And then finally, this dot cuisine is equal to cuisine, this dot name is equal to name, and this dot rating is equal to rating. So now what we did is that wherever we create a food object, so something like this, food foo equals new food, we're going to input in food these three parameters. So for example, if I want to add pizza, I would have to do this: Italian pizza, and then I'd give it we'd give it a rating of 5, which I completely missed in the bracket, something like that. Okay, so moving on from that, now we have to actually instantiate our maps. So food map is equal to new hash map, and cuisine to food is equal to new hash map. And now we're going to create that custom comparing algorithm which I mentioned earlier. And the way to do that is we're going to utilize Java's interface called comparator, which takes object t, and t is for any object we'd like. But this interface comparator has one default abstract method called compare, which takes two variables a and b and compares them. In this case, we know that we're comparing two objects of class or of object food. And let's call this food comparator. And then we're going to write something that looks like this. What this is a lambda function, and the gist of it, basically what it does, is that every time we call that abstract method compare, we're going to run the block of code within these two braces. And just a quick note, there has to be a semicolon at the end of this lambda function. Alright, so now let's actually write that our custom sorting algorithm. So based on the given, what we're going to do is the following. If a.rating is not equal to b.rating, then what do we want to do? We want to sort them from highest rating to lowest rating. So how we do that is we return b.rating minus a.rating. If I wanted to sort them from lowest to highest rating, then I'd have to return a.rating minus b.rating. Otherwise, if a.rating is equal to b.rating, then we need to sort them lexicographically. We have to sort the smaller name. So how we're going to do that is we're going to return a.name dot compare to, which is a method in strings, and a.name will retrieve the string of the food A. So compare to b.name. Had I flipped the order, so b.name dot compare to a.name, then we'd get the opposite result than this. And similarly, if we did a.rating minus b.rating, like I said earlier, we'd sort them from lowest to highest. So let's put a semicolon here. And now we can move on with our code. Alright, so in our food ratings, we actually have these three given to us, these three signatures, parameters, which is the array string of foods, the array string of cuisines, and the array integer of ratings. What we need to do, also it's mentioned that right here, that they're all of the same length, and basically they all, each index corresponds to, are linked to one another. So for example, in this array, at position 0, you might see pizza. In this array at index 0, if this is pizza, then here you're going to see Italian, and then here you're going to get the rating for pizza, and so on and so forth. So what we want to do is we want to retrieve for each index the value of each array, store them into some placeholder value, and then create a object from here that stores name, cuisine, and rating. And then we're going to take that food object, which now stores the value at each respective index, and begin basically inserting them into our map so we can use them later on. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to iterate for int I equal to 0 as long as I is less than foods dot length. But really we could use cuisines dot length or ratings dot length. They're all the same length. Let's make sure we spell that right. I plus plus. Then we're going to say string food name is equal to foods at I. So now we retrieve the value at index I, and the first iteration it's 0, and we stored it in food name. Then we're going to store the cuisine name, cuisines at I, and then finally int rating value equals to ratings at I. The reason I called them food name, cuisine name, and rating value is to not get confused with anything we've written before in the code. So now we need to store these values in a new food object that we're going to create. And obviously with each iteration, these variables and the food object that we're going to create is going to be overwritten. However, their current values are going to be saved in the map before they're overwritten. So food object, let's call that, is equal to new food that takes the parameters cuisine name, because that's the order we went through here. So where is it? Cuisine name, food name, and rating value. Put a semicolon there. Then we actually have to start storing our that food object that we just created in our maps. So we're gonna go ahead and say food map dot put our food name, which we're currently on, and put as our key, and then its value is going to be the food object we created. Now to store the values in our cuisine to food map, first we have to check if the value already exists, and the way to do that without using if statements is we can just write this code, put if absent. So if this key doesn't already exist, put it, and that's gonna be the cuisine name, and give it a new tree set. And right here is where we put our custom comparator. So now it's going to sort them based on how we want it to sort them. Otherwise, if the cuisine name already exists, if that key already exists, we're going to retrieve it. So cuisine to food dot get cuisine name, and then add to its value, which is a set. So add to that set the food object. So food object. So with that done, we can now move on to the change rating method. In this method, we're given a string food and an int new rating, and we have to update the old rating of this food with the new rating that they gave us. And this is where you see our maps come to full effect, because since they gave us a string food, we cannot access its rating or cuisine directly. So what we're going to do is, since this food already exists in our food map, remember our food map stores a string with the food name and its food object. So we're gonna take that string food that they gave us, and we're gonna retrieve its food object. So let's go ahead and do that. So food, let's call this food holder, is equal to food map dot get food. Now inside our food object we have food. So for example, if they gave us pizza, we're gonna get the food object for pizza from our map, which is gonna already contain its food name, which is pizza, its cuisine, which is Italian, and its rating. And now we can actually work with these values. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a tree set of food. Let's call it set, which is equal to cuisine to food dot get. So what do we want to retrieve? We want to retrieve the values from our cuisine to food map of the string of the cuisine that the string food they gave us belongs to. So if they gave us pizza, we need to get the values for Italian. We need to get the tree set values for Italian, right? And the way to do that, since they did not give us cuisine of the food, they gave us string, we go to our food map and retrieve the food object of that food, and now we have access to the cuisine and rating and the name itself of the food. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a tree set food called set, which is equal to cuisine to food dot get food holder dot cuisine. And we can access the dot cuisine. This is a method that we created when we created our public food class and constructors. So now what we're going to do is our set already includes the so now what we're going to do is, since our set already contains this food holder, obviously because this food exists in that cuisine, etc., so on and so on, we actually need to remove first and foremost that object. So remove food holder from our set, because we want to update its value and then return it back to the set. The reason we have to remove our food holder object from the set before we update its value is because once we went through this block of code, the tree set now organized all the foods within the array that they gave us in the order, in our custom order. So once we update our value, if we update it before we remove our food holder, the value is now going to be updated, but its order is still going to be the old order from before, which is wrong because we want to sort them from the highest rating to the lowest rating. So if we had an initial rating of 5, and this meant that in our set the position of pizza was at like 3, for example. After we update it to 10, where 10 is the highest rating in that set, it's still going to be placed at position 3, which is wrong. We have to move it all the way up. So we have to remove it, update its value, and then add it back to the set where it's going to be sorted accordingly. So set.remove food holder. Then we're going to update its rating. And the way we do that is food holder dot rating is equal to new rating, which is what they gave us, they gave us new rating. And then we have to add it back to the set. So food holder. And finally, we just need to update our food map to contain the newest values. So dot replace food holder. Before we move on to highest rated, I'd like to emphasize on one point. Here we created treeset food and we called it set, which is equal to cuisine food.get foodholder.cuisine. What we did here is we didn't necessarily create a new set, but rather we created a reference to the cuisine to food.get foodholder.cuisine. So in other words, if foodholder.cuisine was Italian, we got the values of. We're basically creating a reference to those values, and once we manage or update that set, our foodholder.cuisine key, its values are going to be updated to whatever we updated them. Alright, finally for public string highest rated, they give us string cuisine and we need to return the highest rated food item from that cuisine. All we have to do is return cuisine to food.get cuisine, and since our set orders everything from the highest rating, what we're going to do is simply retrieve the first element in our set, and then we want its name. So cuisine to food.get cuisine is going to retrieve the set of values that belong to that cuisine. We're going to get the first element from that set, and obviously this is going to be a food object, but we just want a string, not a food object, so we need to return the name of that value. So let's run it and see what we get. We have an error. I misspelled cuisine. That's an easy fix. Not so easy. Let's spell cuisine. There we go. Okay, perfect. So that was the design a food rating system on LeetCode. I hope you found that video helpful, and thanks for watching.